You're listening to Shooting the Breeze with Byron A. Lloyd. Dig it.
I'm really rich.
All right. It's Shooting the Breeze with your man Byron A. Lloyd. After overcoming all kind of difficulties, man. It's been a hell of a day. Had the cable company speed tested the cable all week last week. Wouldn't get what I promised. They tried to get over on this OIT gap. They didn't know who they was messing with. Finally got a guy out here. Come to find out, some wild animal or a dog has been chewing on the cable. Dude replaced the cable. 8 hours later, yard man shows up for some reason to mow the yard at 7:30. And he's an older guy. I know what you're thinking. If he was 20, I would think he was on meth. But he shows up about dark and mow the yard. Dude somehow gets so close to the pole, he rips the brand new cable out they just replaced. I've had to jerry rig it twice now just to get it going. Just so I can keep the internet up, so I can do the show, so I can do whatever, because you know me, I live online. But I'm not a police officer, and I don't want to accuse nobody, but I think old dude could have got an NWI. I think our yard man might have been a little tipsy. In fact, I think he was a lot tipsy. I think dude was hammered because how he got that close to a pole and ripped the line off, brand new line off, and didn't tear up his mower or hit the pole is a miracle that only some dumb, blind luck drunk could do. But anyway, enough about me and my problems. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty, right? This is What's the Deal on Hill, Part 2. Like I said, we're going to, usually my show is about opinion. And usually I have interviews or I give my opinion on current events, politics, field, sports, whatever. But to do my part and help out these misinformed voters on here who seem to think Facebook is a source for news and don't understand that YouTube and Facebook, anybody can make up anything and put it on there. And for the gullible, and for the people who are too lazy to do their own, the other people who are too lazy to do their own homework, I've done the homework for you. Even though I'm biased, everybody knows I'm a Democrat, I'm giving you straight facts because I don't care who you vote for, even though I do, because the dude on the right's something else. But as long as you vote, you know what I mean? Everybody has their own right to their own opinion, but everybody has the right to vote, and everybody should vote. So the most important thing is you vote and keep this democracy going, because the lack of people voting and the lack of turnout is the reason we have the two candidates we have now, because if people really voiced their opinion and really stood up for it, we wouldn't have this crappy, corrupt government we have, and we wouldn't have these two candidates who we have now. I've already done a 3-parter on Donald Trump. I'm going to do a 3-parter on Hillary. This is being part 2. This is going to be a good one, too. This is going to get to the current scandals that the right-wingers love, Benghazi and the email server scandal. But like I said, I'm going to do these 2 parts. My scheduling got a little screwed up because last night, because of the primaries and because I was in a lot of pain, and I was out of my pain medication, I really couldn't broadcast. So it threw my schedule up, so I got to slam all 3 segments out in one day, and I'm going to put them out by tomorrow, even though I'm doing this one live, because I could have went the easy route, just recorded it and edited it and slammed it out. But I like doing it live, man. You know what I mean? That's the kind of guy I am. But tomorrow night, me and my arch nemesis, the Arkansas Tucker Carlson, Chase Brady, who's been on the show several times, probably more than anybody, who's debated and argued with me for at least 4 to 5 years now on Facebook, is going to come on, and we're going to do it live. We're going to debate them up. We're going to debate the candidates. I know he was a Cruz supporter, but he's a principled man, and I don't know if he's changed his mind like the rest of his Republicans, but at one time he swore to me that if Cruz didn't get it, that he refused to vote for Trump, that he was going to not vote at all or write somebody in. We'll see how he feels about that. But he's going to debate from the right. I'm going to come from the left. The sparks will fly. We're going to go toe-to-toe. We're going to duke it out metaphorically, politically, you know what I mean, rhetorically, and see who comes out on top, right? I believe it's me. I don't think he's ever beat me in a debate. I'm sure he'll tell you I've never beat him in a debate, and that's what makes it so great. But anyway, before we get down on Hillary, and the big guys in the email scandals. I want to speak to my friends out here because look, I'm a Bernie guy. I've loved Bernie before anybody knew who Bernie was. You can go back on my posts 3, 4, 5, 6 years and see that I've spoke highly of Bernie and I love Bernie. I've been following him going on almost 8 years now. And I was the first guy that said Bernie should run like 2 years ago. Now all these young dudes and all my hippie buddies that jumped on the bus about Bernie because they're in democratic socialism, which is the way to go. And people don't realize socialism and democratic socialism is totally different. Democratic socialism is what you'll find in countries that are more progressive than us, more modern than us, and more successful than us. Your Nordic countries, your Denmarks, your Finlands, your Norways, right? And they tend to have a longer life expectancy, and they all have a better quality of life, and they're all democratic socialist countries, right? So that's the big issue. But anyway, and we're disappointed because after last night, Bernie's done mathematically. It was down to Hillary and the Donald. And I have some friends out there who are still stuck on this Bernie or bust mentality. And let me tell you something, Bernie or busters. There's some talk about not voting at all. Some talk about voting for the Green Party candidate Jill Stein. Either one of those is a de facto vote for Trump. And, I'm hoping Bernie does the right thing because Bernie's starting to confound me because I'm starting to be disappointed by Bernie, let down, man, because he's a team guy. And even though he's one of the only 2 independents in Congress, he's technically not even a Democrat, one of the only 2 independents. He had a chance to suspend his campaign last night, but I think he's going to Tuesday night. And I know he's going to back Hillary. He's already said that. If he loses, he's going to back Hillary. And I want to speak to my Bernie or bust friends out there. And I was going to say, if you're a true believer in Bernie and a true follower of Bernie, you should do what Bernie does and follow Bernie's lead. And if Bernie's a big enough man to back Hillary, you should be backing Hillary too. And if you don't, that tells me that you wasn't a diehard Bernie lover after all. You know what I mean? So don't act like a petulant child, and do what the man does, because whoever Bernie backs, that's who I'm backing. That's all I'm saying. And now let's get down to Hillary. As I'm like 8 minutes in, this might be a 4 segment. I might have to do 4 on Hillary, because everybody knows she's been in the public eye for over 20 years. And there's been a lot of scandal or alleged scandal surrounding the Clintons since the late 70s, early 80s. As I detailed in part 1, the Whitewater deal started in 78, 79. So we're talking about what here, 30, 40 years they've been in the public eye, the public spotlight. So when you're in the spotlight that long, there's always going to be stuff that jumps up. There's going to be a bunch of scandal hurled at you, especially if you're in politics, right? So they've been under the microscope a whole lot longer than Donald Trump. Therefore, there's been a whole lot more allegations lodged at them than Donald Trump, right? But I just want to let you know, I'm only going to talk about the facts about it, what Hillary's alleged to have done or alleged scandals or lies or anything that she's been accused of or proven to have done. I'm not going to say anything or put her in anything that Bill Clinton has done just because Bill did it or was accused of doing it or alleged to do it. Has nothing to do with Hillary. We're talking strictly Hillary. So these folks who try to lump them together, I'm not going to do that because that's not fair to Hillary, because nobody lumped Nixon's wife in with Nixon. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to keep it strictly Hillary, because if I didn't, I could mention that the Vice News just done this undercover report on Donald Trump where he's building a golf course, or he's not, but he's licensed his name. There's these subcontractors in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, that are building this golf course. This Trump is supposed to be the greatest golf course on the planet. It's a Trump golf course. But the workers there are being held like prisoners almost. So they're getting paid slave wages. The most they're making is only $200 a maximum a month. They're living in hovels, and I'm talking about inhuman conditions, to like 20 in a room. You know what I mean? Where like 100 of them got to share a toilet, outside toilet, and It's just despicable, man. And when they got there, their passports were taken by the contractors. So even if they wanted to leave, they can't because they don't have a passport. And you know what I mean? It's a horrible situation. And Vice News, you can see this. You can see this on Undercover Report on Vice, the Vice series on HBO. Vice News made the Trump organization aware of this. Donald Trump said if anybody that worked for him or even licensed his name and was doing subcontract work for him, treated their employees like that they would correct it and they would not have anything to do with it. Well, they made Trump organization aware of that for over 3 months now. The Trump organization has done nothing to take their name out away from it, to divorce themselves from these cats who are building this golf course, or to improve the conditions for the workers. But I'm not going to. I didn't mention that in the Trump scandals or the Trump allegations, because technically it's not Trump's golf course. He just licensed his name. So just like Trump's not married to that just like I didn't mention that golf course that Trump's married to or his name's married to, I'm not going to mention who Hillary's married to. And like I said, we're going to get down to it, and we're going to talk about Benghazi first. And let me tell you, there's been, I forget now, 8 lead. Is it 8? I believe it's 8 investigations that have been led to the investigation of what happened in Benghazi when Chris Stevens, the ambassador Chris Stevens, and 3 other Americans died. I believe 2 of them were SEALs. And basically what happened was a protest. They don't know for sure now. They're still not sure if it was a protest that was a ruse. It really wasn't a protest. That was a ruse to disguise the attack. But that of these cats were protesting, right? And that there's some militants, some Islamic militants or jihadis attacked. It wasn't really basically an embassy, even though they called it an embassy attack. It was because Libya was so unstable at the time. They didn't have an embassy there. It was really just a house with the wall around it. It was more like a compound, not even a compound. It was a temporary residence. But anyway, 4 Americans were killed. Chris Stevens, the ambassador, who was a close personal friend of Hillary's, was killed. And as you know, the rights and listeners right now have been screaming Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. And I think after you cut through the spin, you people are going to be, who have heard Benghazi, she's a murderer over and over again. You're going to be disappointed because the facts say different. And trust me, there's never been an embassy or technically an embassy attack so heavily scrutinized as the Benghazi embassy attack, because there were 13 embassies attacked under George Bush, and we never heard about 8 investigations or 8 investigative committees looking into that. And, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying it has the smell of partisanship to it because, like I said, most people don't know this. There were 13 embassy attacks in the George W. Bush's administration, but there's none of them were as highly scrutinized as this was. And I'm going to be citing PolitiFact, which is one of the gold standards of fact-checking websites. And I'm also going to be, because I like to cite my sources to let you know I'm not getting my information from, you know what I mean, leftwingers.com or some conservative Herald Tribune, one of these fake quasi-news sites that pose as legitimate news sites online that are strictly biased. So I'm getting it from The Atlantic, which is a prestigious magazine that's been around for years, very well established and respected, and from PolitiFact, which is one of the top 2 or 3. It's the gold standard of fact-checking websites. So, like I said, we're going to get down to it. Then we're going to get to the email scandal about her keeping a private her own private email server. But anyway, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. We're 15 minutes into it. Like I said, so this might turn into a 4-parter. So as usual, I got to give a shout out to my main man, that bill-paying son of a bitch. And guess what, kids? Class is in session. Let's do this. Okay. When Benghazi happened, let me go through. When Benghazi happened, well, I got lost there for a second. Let me go back to PolitiFact. So that's the problem doing it live, man. Sometimes you're on a roll, sometimes you're not. I used to have cocktails when I done the show, and my tagline was "Armed with 80 Proof of Truth." Now that my back's broke, they got me on so many painkillers. I guess my new tagline could be "I'm in the zone on hydrocodone." But anyway, there have been 7 investigations, 8 now, mostly led by Republicans in Congress, quote unquote, that concluded, quote, nobody did anything wrong, but there were changes that we could make, unquote. That was a quote by Hillary Clinton on Monday, October 5th, and they rated that as mostly true. And here's the deal. Here's the deal on PolitiFact. Like I said, there's been 8 investigative committees. They pretty much basically said, I hate to tell you, what Hillary said. And that is, there was no cover-up. She did everything she could. The problem lied in lack. They could have had better security. And the problem lied in miscommunication between the intelligence services. That, just like in 9/11, you'd think by now they would have it together after 9/11. But here we are, 14, 15 years later, 13 years later, and they still are not on the same page. The CIA, the FBI weren't coordinated enough to fully understand the situation and the danger in Libya. You know what I mean? The situation on the ground was misconstrued, and it caused for a lack of security, or not the proper security measures, which led to these Americans getting killed, which is a tragedy, don't get me wrong. And like I said, I told you it smelled of partisanship. One big thing that kind of leads you to believe that is, at one time that Kevin McCarthy, who was the House Majority Leader at one time, actually said that there had been 7 investigations, and he screwed up and basically said that they were having so many investigations to sandbag Hillary. And he said this last year, to sandbag Hillary in her campaign, in the presidential run, before she made the run. And so there is some partisanship, but it's politics, it's Washington. And when it comes to political scandals, there's always going to be partisanship. So that's to be expected, right? So here's what PolitiFact found. She was Secretary of State when Islamic extremists attacked a U.S. diplomatic mission and a CIA compound in Benghazi, Libya on September 11, 2012. U.S. Ambassador Libya Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans died in the barrage. In the weeks following the attack, White House was heavily questioned for its response to this terrorist attack. Like I said, there was many debated and conflicting reports from intelligence officials. Like I said, all the intelligence agencies were hearing and telling different things, man. That was the major failings of our government. Once again, that was the major failings of the original 9/11, right? And I said, what role Al-Qaeda played in the attack, how much the White House knew about the group's involvement. Critics questioned whether Clinton and the State Department could have addressed the security issues better at the U.S. facility before they were attacked. And it says the debate got more partisan as time went on, as Republicans began speaking of conspiracy theories and cover-ups. Like I said, the 7 of the 8 probes mentioned about the attacks. They went from all the way from the Senate to Congress, and they also had the Accountability Review Board to investigate the incident, which was something she was legally required to do. The board's final report found no fault in the State Department for the terrorist attacks, but acknowledged systematic failures and management deficiencies that left the mission vulnerable, right? And then the House and Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, they got together on September 16, 2013, and this is the first congressional investigation. And it was also a Republican-led committee, and they released an interim report saying that the Accountability Review Board was lacking in their report, and it could criticize the conclusions in the Accountability Review Board's final report. Then they had another investigation. This was the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. This was a bipartisan committee. They released a report in December 2012 detailing, quote, the high risk, unquote, of a terrorist attack of U.S. facilities in Libya, while the report criticized the State Department for not addressing the security concerns leading up to the attack. It also found, quote, administration officials were inconsistent in stating publicly that the deaths in Benghazi were the result of a terrorist attack, unquote. This is back when they made a big hubbub about whether it was a terrorist attack or if it was a uprising that went out of control, if it was a protest that, went bonkers and went out and got out of control that led to the deaths of these Americans when they overrun the mission in the CIA facility. And, and they harped on Obama because he wouldn't say terrorist attack. Then come to find out he did say terrorist attack the next day. And they made a big deal over the wordage of it, which, at the end, Hillary Clinton come out and said that it didn't matter. 4 Americans are dead, and it don't change. If it was a terrorist attack, it was uprising. The end of the day, 4 Americans are dead, which led people to freak out and say that she didn't care about the American deaths. But she was just saying, it don't matter how it got there. At the end of the day, they're dead. You know what I mean? Dead is dead. But people don't realize that, not taking up for that Chris Stevens was personally volunteered to go to Libya just for Hillary Clinton because they were close friends and she needed somebody she could trust. And this is, I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but this is on record, that she needed somebody she could trust on the ground there to give her real-time accurate reports of what was really going on at the time they were trying to topple Gaddafi, right? And he was a close friend and a trusted confidant who volunteered to go. So he knew the risk and volunteered. That's something a lot of people don't mention or recognize, that he volunteered to go, and he openly stated in a cable back to the State Department that he knew the risk, right? But the report, like I said, on the report on from the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs basically said at the end of the day that the department's security failures, intelligence problems, and a failure to imagine, quote, and a failure, quote, to imagine that type of attack occurred, unquote. So they were saying that, once again, the intelligence agencies on the ground didn't see it coming, basically. You know what I mean? In layman's terms, they didn't see it coming. Investigation 3 was the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. The Senate Intelligence Committee released a bipartisan report in January 2014 calling the Benghazi attacks, quote, preventable, unquote. Among other findings, the committee concluded the State Department had received ample warning about deteriorating security in Libya and failed to adequately increase security in the weeks leading up to the attack. The report also faulted intelligence officials for not relaying information on the CIA annex to the U.S. military. So once again, they're basically saying that the intelligence agencies were the big failure, that they didn't coordinate properly, they weren't giving proper information in real time, that they were getting everybody was saying something different, and they were getting the information to the proper channels and to the right people and to the military, where they can move or take some type of measure to prevent or to damper any type of attack like that. Then we move on to Investigation 4, the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Clinton testified before the House Committee on January 23rd, 2013, in front of the Foreign Relations Committee earlier that day. The House Committee on Foreign Affairs later released a report criticizing high-ranking officials who said they provided a, quote, extensive warning of the deteriorating security environment in eastern Libya, unquote. The report also, once again, criticized the State Department's Accountability Review Board, which was, quote, seriously deficient in several respects. It says, so we move on to Investigation 5. This is the House Committee on the Judiciary. And the focus of this committee on the judiciary probe was the FBI investigation that followed the attack. Let's see, the committee released its findings in April 2013 as part of an interim progress report in conjunction with 5 other Republican-led committees investigating Benghazi. So, wow, there was 5 committees all at the same time investigating Benghazi. Wow. That seems like I can't give my opinion. I'll wait tomorrow. But, man, you're talking about under a microscope, huh? So you can see they thoroughly investigated this, and it was the Republicans leading the way most of the time. So you can't say that they didn't get to the bottom of the truth, because Jesus Christ, look how many people they had investigated, not including all the committees, the congressional committees, and the Accountability Review Board, but they had the FBI, the CIA also investigating. Who knows? I'm sure the NSA was there too. But like I said, the report detailed how the FBI did not investigate the scene until 3 weeks after the attack and spent less than 1 day collecting evidence in Benghazi. It says the committee also faulted Clinton for reducing security at the Benghazi consulate, despite testimony that, quote, she had no knowledge, unquote, of security requests from the compound. So, once again, they're saying she reduced security because she obviously didn't know what was really going on the ground. Once again, you can't fault her because she wasn't there. You have to fault the intelligence agencies and the intelligence assets that were there. Obviously, they were giving bad information or bad intel, or they wouldn't get the proper intel to the right people. Okay. Investigation 6. The House Committee on Armed Services. The Armed Services Committee began its investigation, quote, immediately after the terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya, to evaluate the response of the Department of Defense, unquote, to the attack. According to a February 2014 committee report, the Republican-led committee bashed Obama's administration's failure to address security threats in Benghazi, asserting that the military was unprepared for possible violence in Libya. So there you go, people. Which the military commanders there is on record of saying that they couldn't have got, it would take them 12 hours to get there anyway, because they didn't have anybody on standby. And it's also been documented in these reports that Hillary Clinton at no time, or nobody in the State Department or no military official was told to stand down at any time. That's also another myth that's been floated. That never happened. Right? So there it tells you, once again, the intelligence assets and intelligence communities failed because the military was totally unprepared for any type of operation to prevent or help in case of that kind of attack at the mission, it's called a mission, but yeah, at the U.S. mission and CIA complex in Libya. Investigation 7 was the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. When it released a report exonerating the Obama administration of wrongdoing in its response to the attack, the report found evidence of contradicting intelligence among government officials and concluded officials did not intentionally mislead the public with information in the days following the attack. So once again, it's an intelligence failure. And you would think we would do something about the CIA and the NSA, because for us to have such advanced and powerful and alleged best intelligence agencies in the world, they have failed us time and time again, and yet they're held in such secrecy that there's no accountability and nothing ever changes. They keep failing us. Why don't we restructure them or clean house? I think that should be our biggest focus. You know what I mean? We're pointing fingers at the paper pushers. We should be pointing fingers at the intelligence agencies. You know what I mean? Because they hadn't failed once or twice. They have failed systematically over and over and over again when terrorist attacks have happened. When they know it's coming. You know what I mean? They knew about San Bernardino, that chick was radicalized. They knew about the 9/11 hijackers months before it happened. They knew about the other terrorist attacks, and they still got away with it, man. But right now, I'm 15 seconds before this segment's up. So I'm going to go into segment 3. This is What's the Deal with Hill Part 2. This is Shooting the Breeze with your man, Byron A. Lloyd, sponsored by King Snack Sales. Hit you back Audi 5000